I love you too, Bishop.
And barely leave home. Just turn it off. Let them keep cooking. They're not ready. No. You turn it down if you want to. They got a while ago. Thank you. Jolene. All right, it's about 6:28. Those of y'all getting on, we'll start about 6:30 or a little thereafter. Daria, what's up?
Hello, Bishop. How are you?
For an old dude, I ain't bad. That's my line.
Good to see you.
Same here. Jolene, Raymond, I see y'all.
Good evening, Bishop.
How are you?
Doing well.
Good. This is my Florida background. I'm in Florida.
Okay, I was going to say, are you in the church or?
No. No, they're asking me when I'm coming back. I told them I'm 69 years old. I don't know.
Bishop, you've been spending a lot of time in Florida, sir.
Well, remember, at 69, you get to do what you want to do.
I'm going to use that line, by the way.
You better use it. Carla D.
Greetings, everyone. Hello.
Mark.
How you doing? Yes, I heard you snuck out of town, Bishop.
I was sneaking big time.
Bishop, you
Mark,
don't have
bro,
to sneak.
Mark.
You don't have to sneak anywhere, Bishop.
Mark, I have to sneak. They were like, when are you coming back? What's the problem? I told them I get to go out. Lori, what's up? I get to leave at 69. Katie. Robert DeJournet.
Bishop, how are you?
DeJournet.
That's not very old. You keep saying 69. You know that's
Not real old. Okay.
No.
Somebody better tell me then. Bill, I see you. Master Harrison. Curtis.
Hello.
Mike Hughes, Jim Mullen. I'm just calling y'all off so we know you're there. Ariel, glad you're on. Your Honor. Hey, Kemp, are you on or you just put your picture on there?
I'm here.
Okay. You know, I know how y'all do that. Jerome, what's up?
What's going on, Bishop? How you doing?
I ain't doing too bad. For an old man, that's my line. Tori, I see Tori on there. Kevin.
If my picture's not up, this is why.
All right, Pastor Russian. See Judy.
Yes, sir, Bishop.
You doing all right?
I'm well. How about yourself, sir?
Good. I need to talk to you one day. You ain't done nothing. You done good stuff, nothing bad.
You sure about that?
I'm sure. I'm sure. I'm sure. I just wanna hook up with you, that's all.
And pray for me, Bishop. I'm going to see the de-escalation training on Thursday morning.
Oh, great.
APD.
Great.
So pray for me.
I certainly will. That's great. Are you going to teach or are you going to learn?
I'm going to learn.
Okay. Because you probably could teach. Hey, Judy, are you on here? Or you just got a placeholder?
I did say hello. You didn't hear me. It's okay.
Oh, you spoke to me?
Yes, I did, but it's
Judy.
okay. How are
Hey,
you?
thanks, Judy.
How's the rest of the team?
I thought we was friends. Teresa, I see you.
Hello.
You doing all right?
Yes, thank you.
Good, good. Y'all know how I do. I try to check on everybody. All y'all important to me.
I don't know how you haven't called me lately.
Oh, wow, that hurts me that you would say that. You called me out like that. Pastor Ward.
How you doing, Bishop?
Sue Lacey. All right.
Good evening, Bishop.
All right. Anybody bothering you? Do I need to take some folks out or what?
Maybe.
I could get on them because they don't know what to do with me. All right, one of y'all got some good background going on. Thank you. Well, it's about 6:33, so we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks for getting on. We really appreciate it. We welcome you tonight. If you can't tell, this is my Florida background. When I'm in Akron, I got books behind me. I bet I'm gonna fool y'all, put some books behind me down here. So just welcome you on. We are trying to get some feedback on the Q1 report. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but the mayor wanted to come on tonight and give us some feedback in terms of the things that he's working on and he's doing. Mr. Mayor, if you're on, you can go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, and good evening. Sorry, I apologize for the lack of video opportunity. It would cut out if I tried to do both, but let me start by thanking each and every one of you for the work that you do. I know I appreciate it a lot. It's like, and I said this in the beginning too, I think it's going to be some of the most important public service work I do. Even the city, I don't consider doing this by myself, but I wanted to give you two updates. One was through council's reimagining public safety, there were a number of suggestions around the role of the auditor. We are finishing I guess to be called the finishing touches around what his role will be, and with really an emphasis on concurrency. Like I said, those are almost done, and we should be instituting those within about a week or two at the latest. And I can give you those as soon as we're done with that one part of it too. And then the one was another kind of a reminder. I always kind of envisioned this as you broke up into subcommittees, and that they would do some work and that they would make recommendations that would go through the entire task force, as opposed to just up through the city or just up to city council or myself. There's a broader perspective that I want you to get from the subcommittee work. So I just wanted to kind of remind you what I thought, or I envisioned the entire process to be. So some of the suggestions around the auditor, like I said, will be implemented fairly soon. And then I look forward to the recommendations that you all will make at some particular point by the end of the year. That was kind of it. So I appreciate the time, and we'll kind of go from there.
Bishop, you're on mute. Bishop, you're on mute.
How about now? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. We if you have a question for the mayor, I'm going to give you a chance to ask that because we don't get to have him that often. So any questions for him while you got him?
I see Brian.
Mr. Gage, you can go ahead.
I just wanted to reach out and thank the mayor for taking away some of the work that we had to do in the housing subcommittee by working so diligently to get the source of income and pay to stay legislation passed. So I just want to say thank you for that. It's a new day in Akron.
It was, the legislative process is never really easy. But a lot of other cities have done this, and it was, it was a long time since we have done it. So I was, thank you. I mean, the work should, the congratulations to City Council too, and everybody that worked on that. And it's quite frankly, the one that would led the efforts is right here on this call is Tamika, and she brings a lot of these to us to I think to be better stewards of what we should be doing. So a lot of credit goes to her. But thanks, Brian.
Mayor Horgan, this is Sue Lacey. Thank you for being here this evening. I also wanted to say that we look forward to having you join the workforce subcommittee, I think at our next meeting, I'm hoping, just to continue to give us some direction so that we're clear on the nature of the charge that you really have for that subcommittee. So we're getting a lot of good data from Director Rice and others. And anyway, we look forward to that conversation.
Thanks, Sue. Okay. Listen, I appreciate your service again. Everybody stay safe. Like I said, if you ever need to get a hold of me, it's not that hard to be able to do so. So Bishop, thanks again. Appreciate the time.
You're welcome, sir. Thanks. Have a good evening. We have been working on looking at the Q1 report, and you've all turned it in and done a good job. There were some questions that we were asking, trying to get feedback and asked you to fill out a survey, and we were having difficulty getting that survey done. So we kind of put together some questions for you to think about and responding to. If you want to respond to them a little bit tonight, even, we'll do that. Now, I never hold you just to be holding you, but I think that we need feedback in terms of the Q1 report and what's going on. So here's some questions. Number one, the ultimate RESJ subcommittee success means providing executive committee with substantive, helpful recommendations by the end of Q1. Do the subcommittees appear to have made appropriate progress towards their ultimate goal? So how do you feel about that? Do you think we did a pretty good job? Now you're talking about yourself and everybody else. So remember, if you get too rough, you're talking about yourself. So how y'all think we did?
Bishop, this is Brian. I just wanted to say that I was significantly impressed by all the subcommittee's work. It was of higher quality than I had expected. It kind of really shocked me as to what great work all the committees were doing. So I can't I don't have anything but good feelings about the direction that this is going so far.
Thanks, Brian.
Hi, Bishop. This is Tori Tolson. I wanted to call attention to, I think it was Carla who said it, in that it was still a little confusion on whether we in Q1 were to bring actual recommendations or, really give just an overview. And so I think, I just hope that the executive part of the task force wasn't confused by kind of the flip-flop and some of the reports moving between just a overview of what work we had in front of us and what we were doing versus some committees actually giving recommendations at that point.
Yeah, Tori, no, I think that was fine. We recognize that you were working towards that. Some people seem to groups seem to grab that right away and come up with some suggestions, but we know that that's a work in progress and that you'll continue to work on it and to flesh it out over the course of time. So I think we're okay with that, but thanks for that concern as you continue to work. Can you think of any subcommittees who need to provide perhaps more data or anything of that nature? We're all being kind, but we're trying to make the report as good as we can. Any feedback to that?
Bishop, this is Tracy. I think the healthcare committee, I think by far had the strongest report because we were data rich and we did have, I guess, more time and energy to process some recommendations. I am sensitive to what Tori had reported out on her last meeting, that she had a lot of challenges with her group. And so if there's an opportunity for some of us to wrap greater support around her so that that committee can get more grounding and progress, I'd be willing to help her with that. But I think healthcare, when it comes to data, we were okay or stronger with that regard. And Iriel's on the line, she can chime in.
Yeah, I felt we had a lot of good data. One thing Jerome and I and some of the subcommittees want to incorporate is a lot more history on some of the recommendations. But as far as just really zeroing down into what we wanted to pursue, that we felt was within the city scope, I think Tracy is right. We had a pretty good handle on that.
Thank you, Tracy. I appreciate your heart to help out, because I mean, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to help each other. The end report is what it's really all about in terms of getting those recommendations that are going to be making substantial systemic change for the city. Does anybody have a suggestion or resource perhaps that we maybe have overlooked, or that maybe you want to supply so that to undergird with what we're doing?
I was about to ask, I know it's been mentioned that some surrounding cities have done this type of work. And I'm wondering if it's beneficial at all to, I'm not sure if people work with each other, but if it's beneficial to have, reach out and have one of those other cities that have gone through a full cycle of this type of work, talk about what they did and the challenges and the success stories that came from that, even if they're structured a little different than we are.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think criminal justice has been doing some of that. I'm not sure of the other groups, but we certainly want to take advantage of people who have done some of this already, so we don't have to completely try to invent the wheel each time. Brother Bill, you've been looking at that a little bit, haven't you?
Yeah, we have. We've had somebody in to talk with us who's done some of the same kind of work in Columbus, and going to have somebody coming in from, not literally coming in, but talking to us from Cincinnati, and we'll have to see about others.
Thanks, sir.
Bishop, the Kentucky Lexington plan, very, very helpful. Tamika sent that out.
Okay.
And I think that was like our turning point in terms of really narrowing down and aligning our focus with some of the things that have already been done. So that was a very helpful reference for us.
Great. Thank you for sharing. You already have kind of touched on some good things. Were there some questions that you were left with after we've done the work this far? Is there anything that's still like, I'm not sure, maybe we didn't touch this, maybe we should be doing anything in that area?
I hate to be the one to ask all the questions. I think now that we're in the thick of this and I understand more of, the objectives and the work that's in front of us, I think it would be also helpful to come back around and talk a little bit. I'm not a city council person, so I remember in the beginning, I think it was Tamika that talked a little bit about what we could and couldn't do, or what was going to require like a charter change, or, what's something that wasn't wasn't likely to be changed because it required a vote or the likes within city council. But for me, I think now that I understand the task and the charge, having that conversation come back up again would be helpful to know, to make sure that we're not going down a rabbit hole of something that can't be changed in the end, of understanding that narrative again of what would have to be a charter change, or what would have to be, what types of things would have to go through city council to change it and the likes.
Well, I'm sure that we'd be glad to have that conversation, get some more information. I think Tamika was on it. Tamika, are you on?
I'm still here. We can have someone from our law department come in and talk about that in more depth. And if you guys have anything that you want to ask specifically, please send that to me prior to our next meeting. We can do that at our next meeting, if that's okay with you, Bishop.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
I see Ms. Davis has her hand raised.
Yes, hi everyone. Part of the work that the communications subcommittee is doing is getting literature and reviewing literature. There's not a lot out there. Had a conversation with Bishop. So I had a research librarian do some work, and at our most recent meeting, and Lori, jump in anytime, and anyone else on the communications subcommittee, I can identify 5 cities with racial equity task forces. So if any of the other subcommittees want to check them out, Durham, North Carolina, and they actually have a report on there. Salem, Massachusetts, Santa Clara, California, Marion, Iowa, and then some of us know about Boulder, Colorado. So those are some of the cities that we have identified by doing some research that have task force. So if you want to dig into information that might be pertinent to your subcommittee, that might be helpful. Also, there's an actual PDF, a report of the Durham Racial Equity Task Force. And then Boulder has a plan as well. So if you need, I think Katie might have copies of those that she can push out very quickly because she's on our subcommittee. Thank you.
Great. Good information. Just a couple questions more, and then we'll let you go. Have all subcommittees clearly define what success looks like for you, and to the extent that racial equity and social justice means what does that mean? What does it look like for you? What are we trying to accomplish? Have you have any feedback on that? I'm waiting tonight. I usually am trying to rush you. I'm waiting tonight.
I'll go, Bishop. One of the things we talked about in our definition was being very intentional and really having this health equity lens. And so as it relates to our recommendations, we really feel like we're doing that as it relates to access that we feel is very limited at this point with diverse providers, and also having more of a grassroots presence and a liaison relationship between the city and the community members as it relates to just some of the resources and opportunities they're able to take advantage of and building that trust. And so I feel like within all of those recommendations, we are intentional. We're looking at equity, we're looking at access, and we're looking at inclusion. And so that is the metric in which we wanted to make sure all of our recommendations met.
Thank you. We're just trying to help you zero in. Thank you. That helps us think a little bit more about where we're going, how we're going to measure it, what it is that we're attempting to measure. And let me ask one more question. do you see any areas where you might collaborate with one another, the various subcommittees?
Bishop, before I would like to go back to the question
Yes.
before, if that's okay.
Yes, that's fine.
So the communications subcommittee spent a lot of time and does have a vision for what racial equity and social justice looks like. What I realize we don't have is measurements for 5 years out.
How are you?
Considering that this is a 5-year plan. So what we don't know, what maybe Carla, you do know, what I don't know is how will we know if we were successful 5 years out? Because what we do have is something very broad and aspirational, but it's not specific and targeted. And I think that would help us.
Carla, you want to speak to that a little bit more?
No, we've had several conversations in our committee, and Lori and I were on the same page. I mean, you know, where we are right now, again, so what we have discovered is there's a lot out there when it comes to equity, when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to some of the other areas and subcommittees. As the communication subcommittees, we're still trying to get our arms around clarifying our role, making sure that we support the task force, also developing our own recommendations, and they are gelling. And to Lori's point, really understanding how this will be measured over a 5-year period. I don't know the answer to that as well in terms of my own subcommittee. So I can't even answer it for the task force.
Bishop, if I could, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
If I could interject, I mean, as we're talking about this more, how will we know that we're successful in 5 years? And I think that, you know, as we're gathering information and as we're formulating our recommendations, in order to be able to measure success, perhaps our recommendations need to be outcome-based, and they need to be rooted in metrics rather than just broad recommendations. And then we'll be able to have something to measure.
Thank you, my dear. I think that's where we're going to have to go eventually. I recognize that it's still a little early and you're still drilling down, but we have to have some way of measuring what we're talking about. And I think as you look at your final, looking towards a recommendation, then you need to figure out how you're going to measure that recommendation over the next 5 years. So I think you're on that track, but it's going to take, it's just probably taking a little while to get to that particular point. It seems to me that you've done a great deal of work, but there's still a great deal of work to do. And it seems like the year is going by pretty fast. It seems like we're in May, and but still there's quite a bit of work to do. So I think we need to spend some time, probably maybe the next one coming up, and talk a little bit more about what our measurables are going to be. How do we figure those out? And so Katie and Mariah, just note that we'll try to do that. The other thing that we will attempt to do, and just so you understand my style and what it is that I'm attempting to do tonight to get us to talk a little bit more, we do have some recommendations, and we will have some probably for each group, but I would not do that publicly here. We'll share that with you privately, and what it is we'll be doing. And Brother Curtis is going to be sharing some of that with you. We also have some additional recommendations from people outside our group, so that they're not a part of the group, but they've taken the reports, looked at them, and said, well, here's some things I think might strengthen it, might give it better support. So that's what we're working on. You've done an excellent job. So this is not meant to be punitive or to be negative. It's meant to be supportive. It's meant to add to and to lift you up. So that's what we're attempting to do in this particular process. Thank you for talking a little bit more tonight. I just want to make sure y'all out there. Sometimes y'all don't talk to me. I don't know.
I have a follow-up question, Bishop.
Okay.
Just as we prepare our recommendations. So in terms of metrics that Fidelia was mentioning, when we give the recommendations, are we also including some type of systems approach or metrics along with it?
Probably. I mean, the more we can do that, the better it's going to, the more effective the report is going to be. Now, if we just make a recommendation, then how will we know if that recommendation has been met or hasn't been met unless we give it some kind of metric, some kind of target to be able to zero in on? So we need to talk about that some more. We'll try to come up with that and talk about that for this upcoming meeting. I think it's a great question, and I think we need to drill down on that.
Okay, I do appreciate that. Thank you, because my question is, how deep into metrics should we delve? Where would we cross the line between what our task force is recommending and then what the city's able to implement? So thank you for saying that we'll dig into that a little deeper.
Not a problem. And I think part of the answer is going to be whatever the city decides to do is up to them. We're going to make the best recommendation we can possibly make. And then they will figure out if they can do it, can't do it. That's not my call, but I want to make sure that there are some measurables there for them to be able to take an aim at and to attempt to hit. So we'll do that. Try to come up with some more by next Tuesday. And so great questions, great input. Remember now, you have to remember, I'm a pastor. When you don't say amen, I don't know if you're out there or not. You know, so we got call and response going on here, and I want to make sure you're all right. So thanks for tuning in tonight.
Bishop, if I could really quickly, I don't mean to interrupt you, but
you can interrupt me. It ain't that big of a deal.
I wanted to go back to your point about collaborations, because Mr. Mullen made a comment in the chat that I just wanted to make sure you were able to address.
Yes.
Because I believe it is important and imperative that there is a system approach, knowing much of these areas are dependent on one another and need integration to see recommendations truly change systems. And then also I wanted to remind everyone that moving forward, we need to make sure we're using the GARE guidelines, and if we need to, we can provide those again. But I think that would be helpful and important. So I just wanted to make those two comments.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Let's see if we can talk a little bit more about that next week too. The system, what are we attempting to do? What kind of system can we use to bring us all together? I think we can come up with something, and we'll work towards it.
Bishop, several people have questions. I see.
Go right ahead.
Quick question, Bishop. Just in terms of planning purposes for our subcommittee, when can we expect to have all of the feedback from both the executive committee as well as this outside committee?
That's a great question. Brother Curtis, how quick can you work?
They'll have the information shared with me from the outside resource before the week is over. So I'll start by sending an email, and then I'll contact each of the chairs individually to ensure that they're processing that information. So
thank you.
Great.
It looks like Mr. Bruce Alexander also has a question. I'm not sure if he wants to.
Yeah, yes, I do.
Okay.
Bishop, I have a question as far as the information you said, those outside group or individuals who are gathering for us to kind of critique and give us some more insight. When will we be able to get that information so the committee can look at that and kind of digest and see if there's a way that we can address that, or if we haven't already addressed it or not addressing it at this point, when will we be able to address this and gather that information so it will be in our report?
Brother Curtis is going to try to answer that as quick as he can, and we can send it out probably almost immediately. We had a gentleman that emailed me and said, I'd like to be helpful. I'm a retired colonel in the Army, and I do this for a living. He said, what can I do? I said, look at our reports and give us a feedback. some feedback, and he did. And I think he gave some great feedback. So we'll try to put that in your hands before the week is out.
Okay, yeah, because there's a Mr. Manzier that I contacted, but we didn't get a chance to talk. We're going to connect. He's the one who sent the email to you as well, and you referred him back to me. And so he and I will be talking to see what he is talking about, so we can gather the information he's talking about or see what he's saying.
No, that'd be great. As much feedback as we can get, I think will be beneficial. And sometimes the feedback outside of the group will give us another perspective. So certainly we want to use that.
Bishop,
thank you.
This is Tamika. I'm going to answer Iriel's question before you close us out. Iriel, so I believe all of you know that the city set up an email, it's socialjustice@akronohio.gov. And so when people send emails to that email, I send them to Bishop, Mariah, and Katie and let them answer that. And so that's how the email came forward. I think the email came shortly after Carla and Annie put the press release out. And so that's where he started to provide feedback from the test, from the report.
Thank you. And Carla and I and a number of us have been trying to answer those as people have been chiming in and saying, you know, I'd like to help, I'd like to be a part. If we can give them a part, we can. I'm not so much adding them to the subcommittees now because we're well underway, and I'm just not sure how well that's going to work. But at least if I can give them a role, or they can give feedback, or I can use them in a certain way. We've been trying to do that, and I've been trying to answer everybody's inquiry, just to be courteous and to be helpful to them as they want to be helpful to us. All right. Thank you. I believe that we are doing significant work. I believe that we will have significant impact. And so we're going to keep working at it, keep moving towards our ultimate goal. Thank you this evening. I'm in Florida. It's only 93 degrees. I will have to endure it. It's so tough, but I'll do what I can to try to make it through.
That's just so mean. I'm freezing.
Wish you were with me. Have a great, and Judy, I'm going to get you, Judy. So I'm going to be talking to you. So,
great. My number is the same. I missed it.
Is it the same? Okay.
Yes, sir.
All of you, thank you this evening. Have a great evening. Keep working. We're up to something important. God bless you.
Thank you, Bishop.
Thank you. Good night.
Good evening.
Thank you. Good night.